Right now at Joint Base San Antonio, the air carries a different kind of weight. It's not just the heat of the Texas sun or the familiar scent of jet fuel, it's the arrival of a ghost from the future. 10 days ago, a sleek aircraft with a vibrant red tail touched down, marking the end of one era and the silent, almost predatory beginning of another. Inside that cockpit, pilots are already gripping controls, their eyes scanning interfaces for a machine that officially does not exist. The F-47, America's first sixth-generation fighter. On paper, its maiden flight isn't scheduled until 2028, in the world of public records and budget hearings. It is a phantom of engineering and classified ambition. Yet here in the reality of the tarmac, the training has already begun. There is a profound, almost unsettling irony in this. The jet these pilots are using to prepare for the most expensive weapon system in history costs only a fraction of its predecessor's price. But don't let the economy of its build fool you. This isn't just a new plane, it is a revolution in how we perceive the human element in the cockpit. The connection between this trainer and the F-47 runs deeper than any civilian observer could grasp. It's a bridge built over decades of technological gaps designed to ensure that when the first sixth-generation fighter finally screams into the sky, the person behind the stick won't just be a pilot. They will be a commander of a digital storm, ready for a reality of warfare that will define the next 50 years of global power. This is the story of the T-7 Red Hawk, the F-47, and the quiet, calculated preparation for a war we hope never to fight but must be ready to win before the first shot is even fired. On December 5, 2025, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Trott brought a piece of the future to Texas. As the commander of the 99th Flying Training Squadron at Randolph Air Force Base, he didn't just ferry a jet from the Boeing factory in St. Louis, he delivered a message. This flight was history landing on American soil, a heavy metallic punctuation mark at the end of a 60-year sentence. For 6 decades, the backbone of American pilot training was the T-38 Talon. It was a beautiful, slender machine, white and needle-sharp, a legend in its own right. But legends eventually become relics. The T-38 was born in an era of slide rules and analog dials designed to prepare young men for the F-4 Phantom and the F-105 Thunder Chief beasts of the Vietnam War that have been sitting in museums for 30 years. Every aircraft the T-38 was built to mimic has long since retired, yet our pilots were still using it to prepare for the digital complexities of the 21st century. The gap was widening into a canyon. The T-7 Red Hawk changes that. It wasn't born from an old blueprint or a modified airframe. Boeing and their partners at Saab started with a blank sheet of paper and a digital universe, using 3D modeling and virtual testing so advanced it felt like sorcery to the old guard. They cut assembly time by 80% and improved engineering quality by 75%. From a mere concept to its first flight, in just 36 months, the T-7 is a child of the digital age, built specifically to bridge the psychological and technical leap to the F-22 Raptor, the F-35, Lightning II, and the invisible shadow that is the F-47. When you sit in the cockpit of a Red Hawk, you aren't looking at gauges, you are looking at the future. Multiple high-definition displays, touchscreen interfaces that respond with the fluid grace of a high-end tablet, and stadium seating that offers a godlike view of the world below. For a student pilot, the transition from this trainer to a frontline fighter is no longer a jarring leap into the unknown. They already know the language. They already speak the digital dialect of the modern battlefield. Major General Clark Quinn noted that with the T-38, the difference between the simulator and the actual flight was a hurdle pilots had to clear every time they took off. With the T-7, that hurdle has vanished. The simulator is so precise, the software so integrated that the transition is seamless. In military terms, we call this a force multiplier. In human terms, it means our pilots are no longer fighting their own equipment just to learn how to fight the enemy. But why the urgency? Why this sudden massive shift in how we build and train? The answer came on March 21st, 2025, when a shockwave traveled from the Oval Office to every defense ministry on the planet. The contract for the next generation air dominance NGAD platform, the F-47, was awarded to Boeing. Over $20 billion was committed just for the engineering and development of a Ghost. The F-47 is not just another fighter jet. It is the first of its kind, the 6th generation. While the details remain locked behind layers of top-secret clearance, we know enough to understand that the rules of engagement are being rewritten. It will fly faster than Mach 2, possessing stealth characteristics that make the F-22 look like a glaring radar blip by comparison. It will have a combat radius exceeding 1000 nautical miles, allowing it to strike from the shadows of the horizon and vanish before the enemy even realizes their sensors have been bypassed. But the true evolution isn't just in the speed or the stealth, it's in the role the pilot plays. The F-47 is designed to be a quarterback. It isn't just a solo predator, it is the brain of a swarm. In the near future, an F-47 pilot won't just be managing their own aircraft, they will be directing 2 to 5 autonomous drones, collaborative combat aircraft (CCA). These aren't simple remote-controlled toys. We are talking about unmanned fighters like the YFQ-42A built for the brutal high-G environment of close-in dogfighting, or the YFQ-44, a Fury capable of devastating air-to-ground strikes. Imagine a single pilot sitting in the quiet pressurized cocoon of an F-47, commanding a formation of 6 lethal machines. The drones take the risks. They scout ahead into the teeth of enemy air defenses, they jam radars, they deliver payloads, and if necessary, they draw the fire that was meant for the human in the center. The pilot becomes a strategist, a mission commander, making split-second high-stakes decisions while moving at twice the speed of sound. This is a level of cognitive load that would have broken a pilot from the T-38 era. You cannot teach a human to manage a robotic swarm overnight. You cannot wait until they are in the cockpit of a $300 million stealth fighter to explain how to coordinate 5 different autonomous wingmen. That training has to be ingrained in their muscle memory and their neural pathways from day one. That is why the T-7 is in Texas today. It is the silent partner in a secret timeline. Most people don't realize that while the F-47 was only recently announced, the technology has been airborne for 5 years. Since 2020, experimental X-planes and secret demonstrators have been logging hundreds of hours in the dark corners of American airspace. Both Boeing and Lockheed Martin have been proving these concepts in the shadows, ensuring that by the time the public heard the name F-47, the design was already mature. General David Alvin, the Air Force Chief of Staff, confirmed as much. The foundation has been laid, the gamble has already been won in the laboratories and the classified test ranges. But now the Air Force faces its greatest challenge, moving from the hands of elite test pilots to the hands of the operational force. They need hundreds of pilots ready for 2029, a timeline so aggressive it borders on the impossible. The T-7 is the answer to that impossible clock. It is built to adapt. Its open software architecture means it can be updated as fast as a smartphone. As the F-47's capabilities are refined in the secret hangars of Missouri, the T-7s in Texas can be programmed to mimic those changes instantly. We are no longer just training pilots to fly, we are training them to think, to see the battlefield not as a series of dogfights, but as a complex web of data, drones and decisions. And as the sun sets over San Antonio, the sound of the Red Hawk's engine isn't just a noise, it's the low, steady hum of a superpower preparing for the next half-century of the unknown. The transition from the old way of war to the new is never loud. It happens in the quiet spaces between heartbeats and the steady flicker of a digital screen. In the simulators at Randolph, the air is cool, smelling of ozone and static. A young pilot sits encased in a 360-degree, high-fidelity visual dome, a world so real that the brain forgets the floor beneath the seat is bolted to the earth. Lieutenant Colonel Trott describes it as a total lack of mental translation. In the old T-38, a pilot had to look at a dial, read a number, and then imagine what that meant for their position in space. In the T-7, the data is fused, the displays are the same as those in the F-35 and the upcoming F-47. Every switch, every touch-sensitive panel, every haptic response is a mirror image of the frontline reality. But it's the live virtual and constructive LVC training that truly breaks the mold. This is where the line between reality and simulation dissolves entirely. A pilot can be flying a real T-7 over the Texas scrubland, but through their visor they see a sky filled with digital ghosts. They might be dogfighting a computer-generated enemy that violates the laws of physics or coordinating with a simulated wingman that exists only in the base's mainframe. This environment is designed to stress the pilot's cognitive limits. Modern air combat is no longer a test of who can pull the most G-force, it is a test of who can process a flood of information without drowning. The T-7 training system forces a student to prioritize which drone needs a command, which radar, spike is a lethal threat and which is a decoy. By the time these pilots earn their wings, they aren't just masters of flight, they are masters of the digital storm. While the pilots sharpen their minds in Texas, the physical reality of the F-47 is taking shape in St. Louis, Missouri. Inside Boeing's Phantom Works, the high-security equivalent of Lockheed's famed Skunk Works, the first production airframes are already being assembled. This isn't just a design phase anymore, it is a manufacturing sprint. The F-47 is being built to replace the F-22, a Raptor and aircraft many still consider the king of the skies. But the king is aging and the world is becoming more dangerous. In the Pacific, the distances are vast and the enemy's anti-access bubbles are growing more sophisticated. To survive, the F-47 needs more than just stealth. It needs endurance. Its adaptive cycle engines are a marvel of engineering power plants that can shift their internal geometry. When cruising over the vast expanses of the ocean, they operate with maximum fuel efficiency. But when the fight begins, they transform, providing a surge of thrust that pushes the jet to blistering speed. This flexibility, combined with a combat radius of over 1,000 miles, allows the US Air Force to project power from bases far beyond the reach of enemy ballistic missiles. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has called it a direct message to the world. To allies, it is a promise of protection. To adversaries, it is a warning that there is nowhere to hide. Even with a price tag of $300 million per unit, the Air Force views it as a bargain when adjusted for inflation, and compared to the early costs of the F-22. Especially when one considers that each F-47 doesn't fly alone, it brings its own robotic private army. The logistics of this new era are equally revolutionary. Traditionally, advanced fighters are maintenance nightmares requiring small armies of technicians to stay flight ready. The F-47 is designed with a digital twin, a virtual version of every single jet that tracks wear and tear in real time. General Alvin has emphasized that this aircraft will require significantly less manpower and infrastructure to deploy than its predecessors. In a conflict across the vast Pacific, where every square foot of carrier deck or island runway is precious, this ease of maintenance is as strategic as the jet's stealth. The timeline is accelerating. By August 2027, the 99th Flying Training Squadron expects to reach initial operational capability with 14 T-7 aircraft. From there, the ripple effect will spread to Columbus Laughlin Vance and Sheppard Air Force bases. All 351 T-38s will eventually be sent to the boneyard or museums, replaced by this 21st century nervous system. We are watching the birth of a new kind of warrior. The pilots currently training in San Antonio are the vanguard. They are learning to trust the algorithms to lead machines and to fight in a realm where the human eye is the slowest sensor on the battlefield. As the F-47 moves toward its official 2028 flight, the mystery surrounding it only grows. It is the culmination of nearly a decade of secret development, a project that has lived in the shadows and is now stepping into the light. It represents the pinnacle of American ingenuity, the ability to identify a threat before it matures and to build a solution that makes that threat obsolete. The red tail of the T-7 is more than just a tribute to the Tuskegee airmen of the past. It is a signal for the future. It says that while the technology changes from fabric wings to digital stealth, the standard of excellence remains the same. The skies will remain contested, the stakes will remain absolute, and the pilots of the United States Air Force will be ready long before the first shadow of the F-47 crosses the sun. As we look toward the 2030s, the image of air power is shifting. It's no longer a lone ace in a cockpit, it's a commander at the heart of a lethal intelligent network. The revolution isn't just coming, it's already landed in Texas. Warfare is an unforgiving teacher, but in the halls of Joint Base San Antonio, the lessons are being mastered in advance. The future doesn't belong to those with the fastest jets, but to those with the fastest minds. And right now, one T-7 flight at a time, America is ensuring its minds are miles ahead of the rest of the world.